Midrand Gauteng, a seemingly peaceful and unremarkable small holding in Blue Hills, transformed into the location of an operation nobody was ever meant to witness. On Tuesday evening, a multidisciplinary police task team moved in striking with accuracy and organization as strands of intelligence assembled together over weeks finally converged. What they discovered inside the unremarkable property was not just contraband. It was proof of an entire network. Concealed behind garage walls, stored away in a storage room intentionally hidden from plain sight, lay 80 kilograms of cocaine. Its estimated street value, 20 million rand. Its destination, Cape Town. Its purpose, pure profit. Its outcome, at least one arrest. But this was not just another drug bust. This was a message delivered with force. The find proved to be a dramatic illustration of the depth to which organized crime has woven its way into suburban life, choosing plots like this as an operational headquarters. Illicit networks are no longer concealed in abandoned warehouses or isolated farmsteads. They exist right within daylight reach of estates in peaceful communities that pride themselves on insulation from such operations. It drove one message home. Unless law enforcement renews itself and learns to adapt, it will be rendered irrelevant in a landscape where criminals innovate quicker than regulations can keep up. The SAPS's announcement was formal and contained, stating that crime intelligence had coordinated a multi-unit operation leading to the seizure of 80 kilograms of cocaine. That was the public version. The truth behind those words is something more layered. The flow, the infrastructure, the network built around the Blue Hills plot. The property was not chosen by chance. A small holding in Midrand provides the ideal camouflage. It is not as suspicious as a warehouse, and it is situated along major transport corridors, close enough to highways, yet still within logistical distance from Johannesburg. It is a place far enough away from intense scrutiny, yet close enough to move product quickly. For drug traffickers, it is ideal. The units involved tell their own story. Members of the Organized Crime Unit, the Johannesburg K9 Unit, and the local Criminal Records Center were all deployed, signaling how grave the situation was. This was not petty dealing. This was syndicate-level stuff. Preliminary investigations suggest that the cocaine entered South Africa through a neighboring country, was smuggled across a border, transported across provinces, temporarily kept in Midrand before being prepared for movement to Cape Town. This alone indicates a network stretching across national and provincial boundaries, a system built for efficiency, and one shielded by layers of intermediaries. A 56-year-old man, the owner of the plot, is now in police custody, facing possible charges related to possession and dealing. But let this be made quite clear on the scale. He is unlikely to be the mastermind. He is a link in a chain. The true architects remain hidden, insulated by distance, by money, by intermediaries recruited specifically to absorb the first blow of law enforcement. In an operation of this magnitude, the storage point is crucial. Without a safe storage hub, the distribution chain collapses. Without strategic nodes like Midrand, the business loses millions. And without such hiding places, the illicit market suffers. This is why Tuesday's victory is significant. But only a single battle in a long war. Several lessons emerge from this operation. First, intelligence matters. The fact that crime intelligence led the operation basically proved that reactive policing or responding only when crimes occur is outdated. In this regard, syndicates operate quietly, strategically, and invisibly. Only infiltration, surveillance, and information gathering can show their footprints. Without intelligence, storage facilities like this remain undetected for years. Secondly, visible policing does not touch these operations. K9 units and organized crime specialists were needed because this was high-level, carefully layered criminal activity. The quiet suburban setting signals a shift. The criminals have moved beyond informal settlements or industrial zones to hide in middle-class envelopes where they seamlessly blend into legitimate residents. Third, money laundering and financial infrastructure are inseparable from the drug economy. 20 million rand worth of cocaine implies millions in future cash flow. The money does not move openly. It travels through shell companies, hidden bank accounts, property purchases, and informal networks. Seizing the drugs does not evaporate the system behind them. It merely disrupts it temporarily. Fourth, the routes exist because the system allows them to. Why Midrand? Because oversight is weak. Because small holding properties are hardly examined. Because the police lack resources to target these aspects, leaving grey zones that fall between urban policing and rural administration, cracks where criminal activity breeds. The destination Cape Town is a city already battered by gang violence, drug wars, and spiraling criminal influence. Taking 80 kilograms out could save lives, delay violent confrontations, and disrupt local distribution chains. But no one can afford to assume this seizure will permanently shift the landscape. Syndicates adapt quickly, routes change, new storage sites appear. Without systemic reform, another Midrand plot will be used again soon. The arrest raises deeper questions about accountability. Who is the kingpin behind the operation? Who smuggled the drugs across the border? Who financed the consignment? Where are the other warehouses? This bust is not just about drugs. It is about corruption, complicity, and the invisible hands which allow these networks to thrive. And above all else, the issue remains. There is just no transparency. The public hears the headline value of the seizure, but they rarely hear the full story. They are not told how the syndicate formed, how property ownership was transferred without flags, how local officials might have overlooked compliance, and how infrastructure loopholes were exploited. In a country battling inequality, the drug economy becomes a virtual parallel economy. As legal opportunities collapse under the weight of unemployment and slow justice, illegal markets grow, fueled by desperation and greed. The risks exist, but for many, the rewards far outweigh them. Policymakers have an uncomfortable question. Are we really winning or just getting the leftovers? The Midrand bust is but one visible fragment of a much larger, almost completely hidden operation. For every storage site uncovered, 5 more probably remain untouched. For every operator arrested, another intermediary can step in. Welcome to the modern drug battlefield. Quiet, suburban, unobtrusive, cloaked behind electric gates and manicured hedges. And unless law enforcement evolves beyond the current methods, they will keep losing ground. Sure, some improvements have been made by the organized crime units in South Africa. Coordination between provinces remains patchy. However, information is fragmented. Funding comes and goes. Oversight is reactive instead of proactive. The bad guys innovate while the government hesitates. This case should be a clarion call for reform. It should entrench the principle of intelligence-led policing and drive hard questions about property regulation, border control, cross-provincial coordination, and asset tracing. The message to the crooks could not be clearer. We see you, but the message to citizens needs to be louder. We protect you. Where clear progress is not evident, communities lose faith. They watch as living conditions deteriorate, gangs strengthen, access to drugs increases, and they wonder what has really changed. For the people of Midrand, Blue Hills, and Cape Town, the consequences of this trade touch every aspect of life. Students suffering drug-related violence, parents losing children to overdoses, families facing burglaries fueled by addiction, and taxpayers watching their money disappear into both law enforcement efforts and the pockets of criminals. A 20 million rand seizure is significant, but in global crime economics, it is a tiny fraction. The real question is whether this moment sparks a turning point to break the cycle. Smuggling, storage, distribution, cash, power, South Africa needs to hit key nodes. Taking out the Midrand storage hub broke a link in the chain. Unless systemic reform follows, 5 hubs will spring up in its place. Real reform means shedding light on who owns what property, tracking all financial streams to their source, making border smuggling routes public, regulating high-risk property tightly, achieving predictable cross-provincial collaboration, and undertaking aggressive asset forfeiture. The Midrand bust is a victory, not the war. Without fundamental changes, the next shipment will arrive, the next plot will be used, and the cycle will continue. The casualties: addicted youth, robbed families, weakened institutions are too real to ignore. South Africa cannot afford to remain reactive. It must go proactive, intelligence-driven, systemic, and transparent, because luxury homes can no longer be safe houses. Suburban plots can no longer be shadows for storage. And the criminals who once hid comfortably behind quiet Midrand walls are now facing exposure. South Africa is watching, and the world is watching, and silence which in the past protected these networks is breaking.